He had a gun. That's not an exaggeration. Not a metaphor. Not a joke. The HOA officer, if you could even call him that, had an actual firearm pointed in my direction over a car search. I was parked on the side of a quiet suburban street. Engine off, windows cracked, just waiting for my friend to grab something from his house. That's it. But this guy? He rolled up like he was SWAT, demanding to know who I was, why I was there, and what I was hiding in my trunk. I told him flat out, I don't answer to you. You're not law enforcement. You're just HOA. Bad move. Maybe. But I wasn't about to let some clipboard cowboy play cop on me. That's when he reached for his belt and pulled the weapon. A handgun. Real, loaded, aimed. I froze. You don't expect to stare down the barrel of a gun when you're parked in broad daylight on a legal street. Especially not from someone in khakis and a neighborhood badge he probably printed himself. My hands went up. My voice stayed calm. But inside, I was boiling. He made one mistake though. A big one. He thought I was part of his HOA. I wasn't. And that detail was about to change everything. Let's rewind a bit. Before the gun, before the chaos. It was a Saturday. I had driven over to drop off some camera gear to my buddy, Ryan. He lives in one of those well-manicured communities just outside the city. You know the kind, wide sidewalks, mailboxes all the same height, and neighbors who nod but never say hi. I wasn't even parked illegally. I'd pulled up along the curb in front of his townhouse, engine off, just scrolling my phone while waiting for him to come down. It was supposed to be a 5-minute visit. The sun was out, birds chirping, and honestly, I was relaxed. Until I saw a guy on a golf cart rolling down the sidewalk like he was patrolling a military base. Tan polo, khaki cargo pants, and a little metal badge clipped to his chest that said HOA security. I remember thinking, that's a little intense for lawn violations. He slowed down as he approached my car, stared hard through the window, and then parked diagonally behind me, blocking my car. At first, I thought it was a joke. I even rolled down the window and said, "You need something?" He didn't smile, didn't introduce himself, just asked, "What are you doing here?" I explained, dropping something off, waiting for a friend. "Do you live here?" "Nope." That's when something shifted. His eyes narrowed, and his voice got sharp. "Do you have permission to be on HOA property?" I blinked. "I'm on a public street." To him, apparently, that didn't matter. Looking back now, that was the moment things started tilting into crazy town. But I didn't know it yet. Let me tell you about this guy. Because HOA officer is putting it nicely, he wasn't some friendly neighborhood watch volunteer. He carried himself like a man who'd been waiting his whole life for a confrontation. The kind of guy who thinks ordering someone to mow their lawn gives him military rank. His name tag read Griff. Just Griff. No last name, no title. Like he was trying to be mysterious or maybe intimidating. The way he moved, with his chest puffed out and his hand never far from his hip, told me this wasn't the first time he'd tried playing hero. He started asking more questions. "What's in the car? Why am I parked there? Do I have ID?" I asked if I was being detained. He scoffed. "You're on private HOA property. I have full authority here." "Full authority? Over what? Landscaping? Mailbox? Paint color?" I wasn't rude. Not at first. I told him again, calmly, that I was just waiting for my friend and that I didn't need to explain myself to someone who wasn't law enforcement. That ticked him off. He started pacing, talking faster, accusing me of being suspicious. "We've had break-ins lately," he said. "You matched the description." Of course I did. Because I was breathing. That's when I noticed something that chilled me a bit. He had a holster. Not a prop, not a flashlight, a real holster. And from the way his shirt pulled at the edge, something was definitely inside. I asked, "You carrying a weapon?" "HOA policy allows armed patrol." He said it like he was proud. Like that should make me respect him. All it did was raise every red flag I had. Griff wasn't backing down. In fact, he was escalating. Fast, he started walking around my car, looking in the windows like I had hostages or something. I asked him politely to stop. He told me I was acting nervous and that only guilty people refuse to cooperate. I said, "I'm not refusing. I'm just not obligated." He didn't like that answer. "You people think you can just show up and do whatever you want," he muttered. Yeah, that phrase, "you people," always a sign things are going south. Then came the big moment. He demanded I open my trunk. I asked why. "Protocol," he said. We check any vehicles parked in the HOA zone without prior clearance. That's not a thing. There's no law, no rule, no shred of legality to back that up. But Griff? He said it like gospel. I refused. I'm not opening my trunk, I said, firmly, his face twisted. Then you're trespassing. I'm calling backup. Backup? From where? The HOA bunker? I stayed calm, but I started recording. I had my phone in hand, not in his face, just in case. What I didn't expect, what I never expected, was what he did next. He reached down, unclipped the holster, and put his hand on the weapon, not saying anything, not giving orders, just standing there, hand on a gun, over a parked car and a closed trunk. My stomach dropped. This was no longer annoying. This was dangerous. With one hand resting on his holster and the other gripping his radio, Griff looked like he was waiting for a signal to go full cowboy. I stayed completely still. I'm giving you one last chance, he said. Open the trunk, or I will treat this as a security threat. That's when I realized he fully believed he had this power. Not imagined it. Believed it. I replied. You are not law enforcement. You can't search anything without consent or a warrant. He spat back. I am the law here. I nearly laughed. But laughing didn't seem like the safest choice, considering he still had a gun on his hip and twitchy fingers. I said. All right then. Call the real police. Let's have them sort it out. His jaw clenched. He didn't expect that. Control was slipping through his fingers, and he knew it. But instead of backing down, he doubled down. He raised his voice, yelling things like non-compliant and possible hostile threat. It felt surreal, like I'd been sucked into some parody of a neighborhood drama, except it wasn't funny anymore. People started to peek from their windows, and that's when I finally said, I don't even live here. I'm not part of your HOA. You have no authority over me. You're just a guy on a golf cart with a gun. And those words, those were the match to the gasoline. I swear to you, I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even blink. But when I said that last sentence, that I wasn't in the HOA, Griff fully lost it. In one quick, terrifying motion, he unholstered the gun. Not pointed directly at me, but low, in his hand, finger close to the trigger. Enough to send a message. You need to comply, he barked. Now, at this point, my phone was recording everything. I didn't say a word. I kept my hands visible, my heart racing a mile a minute. That's when neighbors really started coming out. One woman gasped audibly. A man across the street shouted, "Put that down." It didn't matter to Griff. He was locked in, chest heaving, sweating, like he thought this was a standoff in a hostage movie. But I wasn't playing that game. I calmly said, "This is being recorded. You are threatening someone who has committed no crime. And the police are on the way." He shouted back, "I am the police here." But fate, or maybe karma, had perfect timing, because just then, real sirens echoed in the distance. Griff turned his head, and I could see it. The fear. The police cruiser turned the corner fast, lights flashing. Within seconds, 2 officers stepped out, hands ready but calm. They saw me first, unarmed, phone in one hand, standing still. Then they saw Griff, HOA hero with a gun drawn in broad daylight. One officer immediately shouted, "Put the weapon down." Now, Griff hesitated, confused. He was non-compliant. He wouldn't let me search his. Put it down. He finally obeyed, slowly lowering the weapon and setting it on the ground. They cuffed him, right there, in front of the whole neighborhood. The other officer approached me and asked if I was okay. I handed him my phone. "It's all recorded," I said. Ryan had come outside by now, shocked and apologizing profusely. Dude, I had no idea this guy was that insane. Turns out, Griff wasn't authorized to carry a firearm under HOA policy. In fact, he'd already been warned before for aggressive patrol tactics, but had refused to back down. This time, he crossed the line. The officers told me I could press charges. And I did, for brandishing a weapon, false imprisonment, and harassment. Griff left that neighborhood in handcuffs, and I left with my camera gear, and one heck of a story. The following week, the HOA issued a public apology. They said Griff had been acting independently, against policy, and that they were reviewing their internal procedures. Translation? They were trying to avoid a lawsuit. Too late for that. My lawyer filed formal charges the next day. Not just against Griff, but against the HOA board for negligence in allowing him to patrol with a firearm, a clear violation of state law. The story even hit local news. HOA gunman detained after confronting visitor was the headline. Comments online were brutal, but the message was clear. You can't fake authority, you can't pretend to be the police, and you definitely can't pull a gun on someone for not opening their trunk. I still visit Ryan from time to time, but I don't park on that street anymore. Not because I'm afraid, but because that neighborhood still gives off wannabe dictatorship vibes. Here's my final word. Know your rights. Document everything. And don't let someone with a badge they printed at Staples make you question your freedom. Because sometimes the scariest people aren't criminals, they're just neighbors with too much time and a golf cart.